So 2 years ago, I started a degree in jazz studies in my master's program. And so basically this is a holistic degree where we have the opportunity to teach, perform, compose, arrange, and also research. And so I've had a couple of classes that are research-based, and I wanted to pair my studies of Portuguese with my studies of jazz and just find the different connections. You are required to have a recital. And in this recital, you are required to compose 4 compositions original and then arrange pre-existing music. And so I just wanted to pair my interest in Brazil and Brazilian culture with my requirement for school. So I decided to apply for CLACS's graduate research fellowship, which allowed me to go to Brazil over the winter break and really just immerse myself in Brazilian culture. I just wanted to do the music justice by knowing the language and then also spending time with its people. Through going to Brazil, I've gotten to know Brazilian people better, the way of life, living in different communities. I spent time in Sao Paulo during my first study abroad, and then during my most recent trip to Brazil, I spent time in Rio and also Salvador. My daily routine would consist of walking around the neighborhood in which I lived, also taking time to visit museums and different fairs, because with the fairs comes music. So music isn't really separate from everyday life like it is or like it can be in the United States. Just immersing myself in music and anything music. And it wasn't that hard, like I said, because it's so ingrained in the daily life of Brazilians that I really didn't have to seek it out like I thought I would have.
And I started to fall in love with the language, started to dive deeper into the music, knowing what the lyrics were saying, knowing the history, knowing how much Black culture is tied to Brazilian culture.
So I just connected the protest, the Black experience that's found in jazz, and tried to see some similarities between the Black experience in Brazil. During my first study abroad, we had classes both in just a language, a grammar class, as well as a social studies class. And I noticed that one of the paintings that was used to talk about the racial democracy in Brazil was the Redemption of Ham. And I was like, this looks very familiar. I feel like I've seen this painting before. And I have. When I was in 9th grade, I took a AP US History course where we were talking about race relations in the Americas, and this painting was brought up. So I was like, there must be a reason why this painting keeps coming to me. So I saw the opportunity to, number one, use a visual art as the basis for my sonic art that I was required to create for this school year. And I found that there's so many parallels to the Black experience in the United States as it is in Brazil.
And this painting is called The Redemption of Ham, but in Portuguese, Redenção de Cã, and it depicts 3 generations. It depicts the African grandmother, her mixed race child, and then her white grandchild, who is presumably a boy. The grandmother, she's praying to the sky. The mother is holding her child, and her child is holding a fruit. There is also another person in the painting. It is the father of the newborn, who is a European man. But what most captured me was who was not in the painting. And the person who was not in the painting was the grandfather. And when we think about this process that was pushed so that we could come to that racial democracy where, you know, we're all a mixture of everything. Racism doesn't exist. We're the first country to achieve a post-racial society, which is very much not true. We have to think about how that even started, and its origins are in slavery, where Black and Indigenous women had no consent on a mixture of the races happening. So just keeping that in mind, I was like, wait a minute, why does this painting keep coming up to me? And why is it so striking? And I was like, wait a minute, I need to write music about this. I need to write music about this process, something that connects both of these experiences, because I think the one thing that destabilizes any type of movement is thinking that you're the only one. We're the only group of people who are experiencing this. But if you know there's a group of people across the equator who are going through exactly what you're going through, that gives you way more power to keep living and to keep going.
For countries that were colonized by the Spanish or the Portuguese, Race was a fluid thing. It was something that you could get yourself out of or get your family out of through marrying and being with people who were not Black.
And so with the Portuguese and the Dutch, race was kind of like a spectrum. Whereas in the United States, it's either you're Black or white, and if you have one drop of Black blood, you're Black. That's not the case in Brazil.
In Brazil, this type of intermingling was encouraged because the country wanted to prove that we're a post-racial society. There are no such things as racial issues. Everyone is everything. We're all a mixture. So this type of gaslighting that was done by the Brazilian government kind of put a halt on Black progression in the country. And I also learned about the connections between the Black experience and music. Music has always been an outlet for Black people across the Americas. Both Black populations have used music to voice their dissent about their conditions, the racial tensions within the country and abroad. And so I just wanted to highlight those similarities because I think one tactic for suppression of a people is making a group of people believe that you're the only ones going through this and there's no one else who's experiencing this besides you. And in knowing that there's a group of people who share a similar experience, it gives you more hope and it also gives you power in numbers. So I just wanted to draw that parallel in my research.
Although many people were emancipated, much about their condition did not change. Where were they to go? Where were they to work? Most times it was the same situation that they were freed from. And in that relationship, that allowed access and a loss of agency from those enslaved, once enslaved. First mentioned the painting that the grandfather was nowhere to be found. Here is the story of where we can find him.
Thank you.